What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video. And today I want to do something very different from usual. This is what I look like, guys. I'm the guy behind the videos from the last couple of years. But anyways, let's talk about what's happening with Tesla and the markets. As you guys know, nothing I'm saying is financial advice, so don't take anything that way. And now let's talk about Tesla. So when you look at the last couple of weeks slash months, Tesla's been taking a very big hit, making lower highs and lower lows for quite a while. We've been seeing the share price just dumping and dumping and dumping. But the question remains, what's going to happen from this point on? Are we about to see a much bigger crash, or is Tesla going to see a big bounce? And what do I think about this from an investor standpoint? So let's talk about this. As a reminder, why is Tesla selling off like this? There's been many reasons. The first thing is that their sales in Europe have been absolutely decimated. They're down 45% relative to a year ago. We're at a 2-year low in European sales. There's lots of fear right now and lots of negative sentiment associated with Elon Musk. So it's not the best of news. And then there's also news coming out that their Chinese sales are down 11.5%. The competition is very tense over there, and that's not the best of news for them. This is particularly bad because BYD did see an increase in their sales overall, even for their electric sales. And they're getting lots and lots of competition right now, lots and lots of negative headlines about this. So in China, in Europe, in the United States, particularly in California, they're taking very big hits in their sales. And this is leading to lots of fears. There's also been bad news about Elon Musk getting involved in politics and how he's affecting the company. There's more negative sentiment about the whole stock market and the economy with what's been happening with economic data. All these bad things keep coming out for Tesla, and the share price is getting decimated. But the question is this abnormal, or is this what typically happens during this time of year? I'll give you guys an update about that in just a second. But just know this, okay? As far as the market's going, there are a lot of cycles that dictate market emotions, right? There's going to be times of euphoria, and there's also other times of hopelessness. So, for example, Tesla's had many times of euphoria where we saw the share price explode, and other times where investors felt very hopeless after seeing a big dump. But ultimately, what's going to matter is going to be their fundamentals and what they end up doing, at least for the longer term, and what could get investors very much excited. So, for the short term, I'm going to be very honest, okay? I think that Tesla has more potential downside coming. I don't think that we're done quite yet. And the reason for that is because we're just getting started with the year. Their sales are down, and there's no sign that the sales are increasing yet. We're not ready yet. And there's lots of bad economic data and fears about inflation that's still affecting the overall economy. It's also affecting the markets, and that could still drag us lower. But one of the strategies I like to do is I still love to dollar cost average at these lows because of what I see for the long term. So let me just clarify a couple of very important things. So we've entered 2025, right? We're just 2 months in. This is just barely the third month that's starting. And I just want to make it very clear that with everything that's happening, this is not really a surprise. If I go back to Tesla's charts, let's go back to like 2021, for example, there was many times when we saw the same thing happen. So if you look at like 2021, in January, Tesla saw this massive dump, and it continued to dump really hard up until May. So in May, we got this like bottom that was forming at 183. Then we got this insane rally that happened in 2021, all the way to Tesla's all-time highs by November, hitting the $400 share mark. So the first half of the year almost was bearish. Second half was bullish in 2021. Now, we had a very weak year in 2022, and the whole market did come down because we did get very close to bear market territory for many stocks. Some of them entered bear market territory. Tesla was in that territory as well because we had the Fed hike cycle. So what happened was we saw this nice rally by December 31st, 2021. And then we got this rug pull. We tried to run a little bit in March, but then we just continued to dump. So March was a little bit strong for Tesla, but then we dumped for pretty much the entire time. We did start a rally in June. So the second half of the year was a little bit bullish going up until like September. So that was basically the third quarter where Tesla tried to bounce. And then we saw this big dump with the whole market. The whole market came down. I'm sure you guys remember that. Lots of bad news came out. And then going into 2023, Tesla started to run a little bit in February. Then we basically dumped all the way down to 152. Lots of weakness was shown at that time. We were basically weak for almost the first half of the year. Then the second half of the year comes. I highlighted this right over here. And you can see the share price went from 166 all the way up to about 300 and managed to hold up there towards the very end of the year up until October. So then that takes us to about 2024 or last year. Tesla, we hit January, okay, Tesla dumped straight up. It just dumped all the way until like April. All the way to April, we just saw this massive, massive sell off. And then what happened after that? From April up until the end of 2024, we respected a very, very strong uptrend. We saw a massive explosion in the share price, a squeeze up until December 18th, 2024. So, what is the cycle? Typically, when the year starts, Tesla is weak. Typically, we do tend to see downside for the first, 4 to 5 months. There's like a downwards move, and then by the second half of the year, we get these massive runs. Right, that happened one year. Another year, this happened. We were a little bit weak in 2022 because of external factors. It wasn't until like May when Tesla saw a big rally in 2023, despite having a very weak start to the year of 2023. And then 2024, once again, big sell off for the first half, then a massive rally for the second half to close the year. So it's very common for Tesla to be very weak during this period, during the first half of the year. And that makes me a little bit more, I would say I'm not really apprehensive. It's like I'm more and more inclined into like buying shares because of this due to this pattern. But it's not just that. There's other factors for why I think it's not a bad idea to do so. So, yes, Tesla's very weak right now. There's a lot of fear. There's going to be a risk of more downside as time goes on because of the fact that number one, inflation is still on an uptrend right now, which is leading to lots of fears for the markets. And then on top of this, we have more economic data coming out that is going to be affecting the way we're going to be moving. Don't forget, we have FOMC and factors like that that could cause a lot of volatility. And then we have Donald Trump potentially imposing tariffs very, very soon. His tariffs may cause a lot of volatility, so get ready for those guys. That's going to be very, very huge. So get ready for all these crazy things coming out. Back in 2018, the market went crazy when Donald Trump was trying to impose more tariffs. We saw the market being very, very volatile, and the same thing is happening again. Another big factor would be the total put to call option ratio. This is the total for the US right now when it comes to our overall markets. So you guys can see that there tends to be a correlation here. When you typically get these very, very big spikes in the put to call ratio, when it's above like one, that's when we tend to see these more bearish periods. So 2018, that happened. 2019, we did see one moment where this spiked and then we got this dip. During the pandemic, we got a huge spike in the put to call option ratio, and then we saw the market basically crash during that time. So there's a very, very interesting inverse correlation right over here, right, between the S&P 500 and what happens with the put to call option ratio. And in this case, I think it was 2022 near the end, we got this like big spike and we got that sell off that happened. There's another instance right here in 2023 where we saw this big spike and then the market was selling off. But as of recent, the put to call option ratio is only at 0.85. So you would notice that right now there's not as many puts in the markets. I do show you guys puts on like a daily basis. There's typically more puts that expire for calls on just Fridays alone. But if you look at the overall picture, if you account for every day of the week and everything else, there's still less shorting than before. And this could be why the market's not done to bottom yet. We typically want to see some kind of like spike again, a big spike to get closer to one for this market to truly bottom. And I don't think we're done quite yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is more downside coming. But as an investor, I don't necessarily just go all in at the lows. I like to dollar cost average and strategize because of different factors. Sometimes we don't know if the Fed is going to try to cause the market to run or not. We don't know everything that's going to happen. So it makes sense to try to enter at different phases, right? For example, this 270 area. So the reason I'm calling out 270 is because we have this cup and handle that formed here. This was like a previous resistance becoming support. That's going to be one area to dollar cost average. You could enter shares, but don't go all in. I would basically just take very, very small positions right over there before I try anything else. And then when you go to the daily chart, for example, we have these gaps over here. So I would say like during the next gap fill, if we do fill this gap to 250, that's going to be another potential entry to try to buy some shares, right? And then if that fails and we continue to fill this next gap, I'd be looking for this next gap around 217 to enter a little bit more shares. And then eventually, if we do somehow get down to like 200 or even like 180, I don't look at that as a curse. I look at that as a blessing in disguise, because we know Tesla could run like crazy. We know the market could squeeze like crazy. Just a couple of weeks ago, the stock market was at all-time highs. Okay, what has changed since then, since the last 2 weeks? It hasn't been that much, just some negative data, but that's enough to cause so much fear to cause the market to dip like this. So, as far as Tesla goes, we have their unsupervised robotaxi coming as soon as June, at least according to Musk. If this is truly the catalyst, and I think this is going to be very, very big, Tesla could try to run approaching June. And that's what tends to happen, at least when it comes to cyclicals. As we approach the second half of the year, we do tend to see Tesla bounce a lot. So in that case, right, I would like to scoop up those shares before this big event and try to get those nice buying opportunities. And then once we approach June, going into the second half of the year, I think things could be a little bit better for Tesla. And then for the long term, 2026, 2027, and beyond, I still see a massive rally coming due to their Optimus robots, due to their robotaxi service expanding, and due to many other factors such as their sales potentially improving. I do think Tesla's sales can improve over time with new models coming out, with improvements to our economy, with interest rates coming down as well. But for the short term, I don't think we're there yet. And I still think there's going to be a lot of volatility and risk in this market, and there will be more downside eventually coming. So I hope that's as clear as possible. So, like I said before, and this is just a hypothetical example of how this is looking, just know that we're down quite a bit. We're already down about 43% from the all time high. So, pretty crazy sell off on Tesla, which is why I'm looking at this as an opportunity. But just to be very, very clear with the way that things are going, I'm not really too worried about this. I still think that we have quite a while to go until we form that, complete bottom. But, anyways, from what I'm looking at, I just want to say that for the short term, we could attempt to rally a little bit. There could be a small attempt to get back to our daily 200 EMA, which is at this 302 area, or even to try to retest our trend line right over here, right? So this could be like a retest that's trying to come to Tesla. But then as time goes on, that could lead to something that's very, very different. So if I were to draw this out, if we do see some kind of rally like this could just be a short-term move, very, very short-term if we do try to touch this. But then with their sales coming out and earnings, I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla does see another decline to fill a lot of these gaps, whether we bottom at 250 or if we go all the way down to 220 or 180. It all depends. We could see another big decline in the markets and even for Tesla as we approach the first half of the year, the end of the first half. And then as we get to that April period, I will be looking for us to bottom somewhere, whether it's at 200 or even below. It all depends. And then there's going to be another big pump coming as we start to approach the unsupervised FSD robotaxi launch in Texas and other regions. So that's all about the way the market's moving. And I want to give you guys a warning that the more Tesla dips, the more there's going to be more hopelessness, more depression phases, more panic. And those are the times you want to be buying. You want to be greedy when everyone else is fearful. And that's what makes up this market. And this is what causes these opportunities. So all that the stock market is it's just a bunch of these big institutions, these rich guys who have money, and they try to essentially take money from retail and transfer it to themselves, right? And the way to do that is to get retail to sell when they start buying, and to get retail to start unloading shares, when they want to do that, and then get retail to buy at the tops. That's all about their game. So when you think about it that way, trading is like a zero sum game, right? If you are making money, someone's losing money. You got to think about it that way, especially when you're trading like options or trying to trade with different strategies. So, with that being said, that puts the market in a very, very critical place. So, I think that if there is some more downside potential for Tesla, I'm just going to be continuing to remain greedy when everyone else is selling and they're very, very scared. I'm very excited for the long term. And then when I buy up to Tesla shares, I'm not necessarily buying them for the short term, just caring about big rallies for like 3 months out or anything like that. I'm holding them for many, many years to come. And I'm still very confident in Tesla's fundamentals. There are things I wish that could be improved when it comes to their sales and their operations and such. But if anything, I think that they're going to be completely fine for the long term. Elon Musk's politics does give people headaches. It's the honest truth. But I think that regardless of that, Tesla is going to be fine and they will make a big comeback. I would not bet against Elon Musk. Yes, him being involved in politics is not the best for Tesla in all honesty because he doesn't really talk as much about Tesla. Even on his Twitter page, I barely hear him ever tweet about Tesla. And he's so involved in other things that it leads to some confusion and some, I would say uncertainty amongst these investors. But nonetheless, I think that with the roadmap that Tesla has and with the robotics that they're developing, they're going to be fine. I'm not really worried about that. The market is going to be fine as well. The market is green about 70% of the time historically, and there are periods where we enter bear markets, but they happen only so often, right? Every 4 to 7 years, depending on the time frame you're looking at. And no matter what, the market will make a full recovery. I'm going to be very, very honest about that. It just is going to take time. Eventually, we will recover. Every time we crashed in the stock markets, we will eventually see a very, very nice return. So I don't think we're done with this selling. It is possible that SPY it tries to run a little bit more from here, but I don't think that we're completely done with this. For now, we're going to be looking to see how much higher this could go before we form a top and we see another attempt to dip. With the tariffs coming up and a lot of fear about our economic data, I would still be very, very careful. And with that coming, I would just remind you all to just be patient no matter what. And as we dip, look at these as opportunities and not curses. Because remember, these things will eventually break all-time highs. Everything's going to eventually run really, really hard. Tesla will eventually run to the 500s, the 600s, the thousands as many years go on. For the short term, it is possible there's a lot more downside coming, but I see that as nothing more than an opportunity because of what they're developing. And for now, just know that the pattern on Tesla, the fact that we're selling off like this is nothing abnormal. This happens the majority of years. Tesla does tend to be very, very weak during this period historically, and I think we're going to be fine no matter what. So keep that in mind, guys. I'm very, very optimistic no matter what. We were just at the 400s just like a couple of months ago. So I just want to make it very clear we could run again when the time is right. The time is not now. It's just another opportunity, and we're going to be completely fine no matter what. Anyways, that is it for this one. I thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll be back with another upload possibly tomorrow. So until then, I just wish you all the best. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Thank you for listening. Have a good one, and peace out.